All right, welcome along. Tonight I am talking about motivation. I'm going to talk about what exactly motivation is. I'm going to talk about the types of motivation. I'm going to talk about our own individual motivation, so what your motivation is, and then how to achieve it and how to sustain it, how to maintain it. Because one of the biggest things that I hear people say is that they are lacking motivation. They have a goal, but then they don't know how to stay motivated. So we're going to get into all of that. Starting off with what motivation is. So derived from the word motive, which denotes a person's needs, desires, wants, or urges. I think that's really, really important. Desires, wants, or urges. So it's an actual process of motivating individuals to take action in order to achieve a goal. So the physiological elements that fuel people's behavior. What is it that makes them tick? What is it that makes them want to achieve something? So in the context of a job, the goals might be the desire for money, success, or fame, maybe credibility, maybe even networking or sort of social assistance. And then in the context of health, the goal might be something a little bit more like longevity or general health, physical ability, and it could also be something more aesthetic and visual. So everybody will have different motivations to whatever it is that they do. And some people might not be interested at all. And we'll get to that with regards to fitness as well. There's a classic textbook definition of motivation given by Mullins in 2002, which says that motivation is a driving force through which people strive to achieve their goals and fulfill a need or uphold a value. And the important words there are needs, values, and goals. And these are the building blocks of motivation that lead to action. So the needs are the basic requirements for survival, physical or physiological, for example, hunger, thirst, love, friendship. Values are more personal and the things that we consider to be important for us. So family, health, wealth, whatever it is. And then the goals are the outcomes that we are working towards. So everybody's going to be obviously on different pages with all of those. It's an interesting definition describing motivation as a driving force, because to me that's like a lot of energy, and the energy within us that is sort of created to move us into action. And then you've probably experienced that when you've wanted something, like, wanting to achieve something. There's this drive to achieve it. If it's running a race or passing an exam or something that you've really wanted to do well at, then you've had this driving force, and that's the motivation. But the needs and values are very, very individual. Two people might have the same goal to win a race, but they might have a different reason or value for doing that. So in the race, a person might want to sort of feel good about themselves, and that's like a self-esteem thing. Or the other person might want to win because success is important to them. So different values there. And I guess in conclusion, we can say that motivation is specific to an individual, the result of their needs and values, which create their particular goals, and that's translated into action. So there's different types of motivation. There's intrinsic motivation, which can be things like passion or interest, curiosity, enjoyment factor, the purpose factor, and just enjoyment and fun in general. And then there's extrinsic, which is more the money or the praise, awards, grades, rewards, and then also even punishment. And we can relate that to fitness as well a little bit later, where you get sort of, the positive things, but also the negative can be a driving force as well. There's crossover motivations that can be intrinsic and extrinsic, like academic success or relationships or career success. So those can sort of lean on in either way or overlap. So some really interesting sort of realizations as to what the motivation is for different people. And I guess for the success in reaching our goals, then we need to first of all quantify exactly what the goal is. And we need to have that as a vision. And I often tell people that, and when I do my coaching calls, I'll often say, where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself in, a year's time or 2 years time, or even 5 years down the track, to have that vision of where you want to be. Then we can figure out what the motivation is. And I was sort of thinking, do I get you guys to write that down and we sort of do it as a bit of a a workshop now, but maybe that's something that you can do in your own time so that we don't take up too much time with the talk tonight. But to write down what your goal is, and I think that's always good to have sort of a vision board and to surround yourself with the vision of what you want, and then to figure out what your motivation is so that you've got a clear pathway and knowledge as to how to reach it. And when you realize why you want what you want, the motivation comes a lot easier. So when you know whether it's an intrinsic or extrinsic reason, then you can actually put the path together so there's a more clear vision for you. So there's a few ideas about motivation that I want you to think about, and I'll expand very briefly on them. But recognizing what truly resonates with you is going to help you to reach your goal. So there's achievement, the sense of achievement, and I'll relate it to fitness, the sense of growth, and that can be personal growth, emotional, physical. There's also the idea of power as motivation, so having control. I'll expand on that as well. Social circles, how people are going to see you and sort of react to you and be around you. And also the idea of fear, which is something that I just touched on before. The fear factor of potentially, getting sick or not being able to do things that you want to do, and also having the incentive. So the main ones I'm going to focus on: achievement, growth, power, social, fear, and incentive. I'll expand on those, but I want you to think really clearly which one resonates with you the most to help you make a plan to move forward and to keep that motivation so that you keep your eye on the prize to reaching your goal. So the first one is achievement that I want to talk about. This is where people are motivated to improve their skills or prove their competency or prove themselves to others, prove themselves to themselves. And that can be an internal desire to strive for personal accomplishment, or to search for recognition from other people, positive feedback from other people, sort of, fueling that fire to keep you going. If you're motivated by achievement and recognition from others, then you'll probably tie your goals into something personal, like being healthy for your family. So they have you around for longer. They appreciate that you can do more. We all want to feel like we're good parents. It never hurts to get affirmations from other people, seeing that you're doing a good job, feeding your children healthy food, or staying active. So that could be, a really important driver for you to stay on track. Otherwise, if you're intrinsically motivated, then you probably want to just focus on yourself, taking photos to see the progress so you can compare. And when you notice changes, it's really important. That's why I get you guys to do the photos. When you notice those changes, that gives you time to sort of reflect and bask in the glory of the achievement, and then allow that success to continually move you forward. So figuring out if it's an extrinsic or intrinsic achievement driving factor. So that's the achievement side of things. Moving more into the growth side of motivation. Nobody wants to feel stagnant or stuck in their situation or their body. And that's what I hear a lot, is that people feel just really stuck in their bodies and nothing's happening, nothing's changing. So the desire for personal growth and change, that can be a really big motivator. I want to feel better. I want to look different. I want to be able to do more. So your motivation can change in relation to fitness, in the sense that you don't want to be sedentary. You don't want to be overweight anymore. Or maybe you don't want to be too thin. So knowing, again, that's the reason having that goal will make that a clear vision for you. And if you want to change your lifestyle, you want to feel better about yourself, you might want to discover a new identity, you've got to start identifying yourself as that person. And that can be a really hard thing to do. But again, that's where sort of the vision board comes into it. You need to surround yourself with things that are going to remind you that this is who you are becoming, so that you can create the life to be that person. Hopefully that makes sense. So I sort of think to myself, if you want to be fit, strong, healthy, and active, you need to do the things that a fit, strong, healthy, and active person will do. You need to talk like a fit, strong, healthy, active person. You need to sort of have that new identification of yourself that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in a sense. And you turn yourself into what it is that you want to be. And that's a really powerful thing. So the more you practice it, the easier it gets. But obviously, that may or may not be a motivation, a way of motivation for you through that sort of personal growth and change. The other great way to use growth as motivation is to look at your workout as a break, as time to focus on yourself. No one's interrupting you. It's personal time for your own well-being. So thinking of your workout, I guess, as a way to improve yourself, and that will help you to stick to your workout. So that's your own personal growth. You know, I really find that time in the gym or the time doing Zumba, even though I'm teaching it, is time to be for me. It's my time, and I dedicate that time to myself for my own growth as a woman, as a mother, as a role model. So that is quite a driver for me. Power can be another motivator. If you're motivated by power, it means that you want to control your own life and you want to determine the outcome. And I guess then you're more driven to create the outcome that you want. So if it sounds like you sort of harness your desire for control by setting small, attainable goals so that you recognize that you are able to achieve them. And that gives you a sense of achievement, a sense of power, a sense of control, and that the energy that you're putting into it, you are achieving that on your own. So more important than setting that goal, that end goal, which I don't mean to contradict myself, but when you break it down to the motivating, driving force to get you to where you want to be, let's say you wanted to lose 15 kilos, but you need to set weekly or monthly goals to increase your reps, your weights, your cardio, whatever it is, so that you then ultimately will get to the 15 kilos, but you've got to do it in small steps. So the idea of, again, successfully seeing changes happen gradually is going to be a really important part of your process. Starting off with bite-sized chunks, instead of setting your goal as going to the gym 5 times a week, set the goal as 2 times a week plus 2 walks. So that's something that's probably going to be more achievable. And once you can succeed in that and you can feel success and powerful, then you can start to progress and make things more challenging because you're now ready for them, rather than throw yourself into the deep end and it's not sustainable and it's disappointing. So giving yourself the power, knowing that you can do it, knowing you can achieve it. The other way to tap into the power aspect of motivation is to vary your routine. Choose what you want to do. So you don't necessarily have to have a set plan, but you have an option of workouts or things that you're going to do. And then you choose what works for you on any given day. And then again, you've got the control and the power to succeed in reaching your goal. So sometimes, you know, saying that you're going to do the same thing could be monotonous, same workouts or the same, go to this gym, you know, 4 or 5 times a week, whatever it is. That sometimes can just lead, especially when you're new to fitness, it can lead to plateaus, it can lead you to get bored. And so mixing it up, having the power and choice to have more options can keep things interesting for you. I also find that sort of keeping that log, and that's why I get most of my clients to keep the log and to check it off on their calendars, gets you to see the patterns, gives you a bit of control over what's happening. You can see also with your weights that you're increasing and progressing. So, you know, just having sort of that visual control over what's happening in your life is really important. Moving on to the social aspects of motivation. Social can be really effective, especially now with all the social media platforms. So it can work both ways, but if this is your motivator, then you probably do rely a lot on social media or your network of friends, which is really important to you, or even family. So the desire to belong or catch the eye of somebody special, perhaps. So using those affirmations to motivate you. So, you know, if you're putting yourself out there, people are noticing that, you know, you're showing up to the gym regularly or showing up to classes or whatever it is, or, you know, just that recognition will keep you motivated. or if it is that you are showing your achievements on social media or telling your friends about how you're going with your gym workouts and that you're progressing. So those affirmations is what I mean that will keep you moving forward. So some people who are motivated socially, they like to use that success to encourage others as well to make positive changes. So if you are doing really well and you can motivate other people to do really well, that's going to be a motivating driver for you to keep going. Because look, if I can do it, I need to stay on track. So other people, I guess, you become an inspiration. And then people, that drives you to keep going. I think that if you are motivated socially, it's important to find ways to do your workouts socially. So perhaps doing it in a group setting, perhaps having a buddy to work out with, that can really help. Sometimes, it helps to have a bit of that sort of friendly competition to kind of spur you on a little bit, to have a good workout to push you a little bit harder. The camaraderie that you develop is a great way to keep you going and keeping you consistent. That's a social motivator. Hopefully some of these are starting to resonate with you, and hopefully this will give you a bit more of an idea of how to continue moving forward successfully. So there's just a couple more. Fear is a really interesting one. Some people are motivated through like the fear of consequences. So it can be effective, but it also can be quite extreme. So if you like to have consequences attached to a goal, then you probably want to go public with it because that puts that pressure on you. And the fear of disappointing others or publicly failing, I guess you could say, is often enough just to keep you on track. I often say if you put it out there, then people are relying on you, or they're waiting to see what happens, and that sort of keeps you really accountable and motivated to keep going. If you find that this type of motivation is effective, then you probably want to think about signing up for some kind of competition, some kind of race, maybe like a Tough Mudder or a marathon, or just something that's going to give you the constant drive to keep working toward your goal. Also, the fact that if you announce it, then people are expecting to see the outcome. So that sort of idea of keeping you on track. So along with paying a potential entry fee, or that sort of the fear of stepping on a stage and performing poorly, you want to make sure that you're going to perform well. So that might be the push that you need to keep you motivated. I also think that I often find when I'm wearing new gym wear, or spending money, I don't want to waste my money. So if I've spent on sneakers or gym wear, then I want to sort of show that off, I guess, or I want to use it and not waste it. So that can also be a motivating factor, knowing that you've got something new or something expensive to get you to where you need to be. Get that, tiger leggings for the Zumba class or whatever it is. So that's the idea, I guess, of that fear to drive you. And the last one that I just want to touch on is incentive. So incentive motivation involves rewards. So knowing that there's a reward for tackling your fitness goals, and that can make the experience more fun, more exciting. So perhaps the incentive is, a long-awaited holiday. Every time you do a workout, you could pay yourself $5 or something. And at the end of, I don't know, at the end of a year, that's like $1,000 or something. So that's a pretty cool holiday. It could be a treat. I like to sort of tell myself that even though I need it, but a massage. So if I know that I've hit all my workouts for a particular amount of time, my body needs the massage, but for me, that's a beautiful treat. So knowing that there's a reward there, that can make it more enjoyable and just give you that drive to keep going. Another good and often favorite incentive for people is a night out, enjoying a meal that you don't want to completely write off all the hard work that you've done, but something where you can sort of maybe once a month go and sort of treat yourself, that you've worked so hard, and you go and maybe splurge spending a little bit more money on something nice, or just enjoying something that you wouldn't ordinarily eat. So definitely be cautious with that one, because you don't want to sort of squash a whole week's worth of hard work in a single sitting. But that could definitely be a driver. So My thoughts on how to improve your motivation generally, because that's all quite sort of specific to each motivating sort of thought. The most important thing is to set those small measurable goals. So measurable goals. It's really important to have those bite-sized chunks that you know you can achieve so that you feel successful and you start to feel fitter, or you feel the difference in your body or your clothes or whatever it is, and that will help you to keep going. I think it's also really important that you create a bit of a mantra. And I know that that sounds a bit like, woo, but something that you tell yourself all the time and you remind yourself, this is why I'm doing it. You know, a little song in your head, or a little that's why, again, the vision board is really important. Just a note somewhere, post-it note somewhere. Why are you doing this? Remind yourself why you're doing this, and just keep repeating it all the time. You know, when you're doing your workout, you just don't want to do it anymore and you've still got 2 exercises to go, that mantra needs to come into your head and keep pushing through to the end, just to get to the end. Again, I think also that sort of public commitment, so puts that accountability or that pressure on, letting people know that you go to the gym or that you have a particular goal, and then you can continue striving toward it because you've made that commitment. I think that the routine is the most important part of this, the discipline. And one of the things I often say about motivation, and this is going to probably completely throw everything that I've said out the window, but you can't rely on the motivation. So you have to have discipline, because you can't rely on always having that mantra, you know, 6 degrees in the morning and you've got to get to the gym, which is half an hour away, or whatever it is. That mantra or the new clothes or whatever it is that usually motivates you may not work. So you have to have the discipline. So making sure that is part of your routine and you become autopilot to that routine. I think that's just such an important part of staying motivated. So I know that's all a bit contradictory, but part of continually showing up is motivation that comes with discipline. So just create that routine, have those rituals, just make it happen. Part of the motivation is routine. I think you've got to be really good at talking to yourself. So like a good mental debater. You've got to keep talking to yourself, constant dialogue. It's so important, as I mentioned before, with that sort of self-growth, that you need to start identifying yourself as who you want to be in the future. So constantly talking to yourself as that person, as that fit, strong, or whatever it is. So that constant dialogue, when you start to think negatively, and this is something that I also say with my clients, is that you have to remain positive. There's going to be days that are going to be really, really challenging, days where you don't want to do what you should be doing. And it's really, really important that you maintain that dialogue with yourself as to why you're doing what you're doing. Small bite-sized success steps. Keep telling yourself you can do it. It's not something that's unachievable or unattainable. So constantly talking to yourself and reminding yourself of who you want to be, why you're doing what you're doing to become who it is that you want to be. You need to see those goals. See those goals really clearly, those little steps, and then the bigger picture as well. And the last part of that is to really face your fears, not giving up, stepping out of your comfort zone, just making sure that you are pushing yourself, because every step out of your comfort zone that you make will bring you closer to that person that you are becoming. And if you stay in your comfort zone, I always say nothing changes if nothing changes. So making sure that you keep pushing yourself to do better and to achieve more. So when you've done those things for an extended period of time, and I mean really at least 3 months, that's why I sort of give my programs usually that 12-week or 3 months sort of length, things start to change and they become more natural. But anything less than 3 months, it's really hard to see the changes happening enough for you to maintain it yourself. So you've got to be committed to the minimum of 3 months in order for you to start feeling that this is more of a natural way of being. So those habits that are changing, your attitude starts to change, your life starts to gravitate around you. So seeing those small measurable goals, those little wins, your life starts to change and you keep moving with that momentum. The last thing I want to touch on is the fact that if things don't start to change, if people will say, I've tried everything, I've done this and I've done that and nothing's changing. I think to myself, you need to own the fact that maybe this isn't a priority for you, because if you have stuck with professional advice, because obviously if you don't have professional advice, you're kind of winging it and nothing's changing because what you're doing obviously isn't working for you. So you need to have the right advice for you. If you haven't stuck with it for more than 3 months, then you're probably not serious enough. And if you have stuck with it for 3 months and nothing's changing, once again, you're probably not giving it 100%. Are you doing everything to ensure that you get closer to your goals? And I think people really need to be honest with themselves that, they haven't been sustainable with what they should be doing, or they haven't really stuck to it the way that they should. And it takes more than 6 weeks to change habits and to see major changes. People will get to 6 weeks and they've lost 1.5 kilos or maybe 2 kilos, but that's not enough for them. Whereas if they'd kept going for another 6 weeks, they would have lost 4 kilos or whatever it is, but you've just got to keep going. So once again, digging deep, what is it that motivates you? And having the vision and that constant self-talk, understanding what it is that's your driver, and having that discipline above all else. So not relying on the motivation, but having the discipline and that constant self-talk. Some other motivational ideas, just a few quick ideas, and then I'll just end if anybody here does have any questions. Otherwise, if you're playing this back, you can send me through any questions that you might have. A couple of things just to help you stay motivated, really simple things. For example, music can be a really big driver for people. So you might like high energy music that will help you to stay pumped and energized and focused and more intensity through your workouts. Making sure that you get enough sleep is a massive one. Lack of sleep will completely derail you from your training program faster than anything. So most people will overcompensate by eating too much or by drinking coffee. I just did a post about that this week, or just skipping the gym altogether. And really, it's just about sleep. Sleep is such an important part of staying on track and thinking clearly and making good choices and staying focused on, achieving that goal. Being patient is another really, really important one. I find that this is, again, which I just touched on, people don't wait the 12 weeks. People aren't consistent enough. And if you make a promise to stick with it for at least 3 or 4 months, then I am certain that you will get results and beyond, because your lifestyle will start to change. And yes, we all have fallbacks, and then sometimes we need support or professional advice to get us back on track, and that's normal. I have that myself as well. As a coach, I still need to call on a coach occasionally to put me on track and to give me direction. But once again, consistency is key. So if you can be as consistent as possible, be patient, and the results will present. I always say, don't try to change everything at once. Again, those small baby steps, measurable goals. Choose one habit to change at a time. So maybe it is just to get that 7 hours sleep a night. And, after doing that for a week or 2 weeks, you will feel like a different person. If you're the kind of person who doesn't get solid sleep, if you're the kind of person who doesn't drink much water, just change the water habit. 2 weeks of your life. You've got nothing to lose. The time is going to pass anyway. There's no point in trying to do everything all in one go. And same thing with sticking to your diet, which is such an important part of any fat loss or even muscle gain process. The nutrition is, 90% of it. So sticking to that for at least 30 consecutive days. Once the actions are repeated, then it's more likely to be ingrained in you and habitual. So as I said, to summarize, do not rely on motivation. You just can't rely on it because the motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes. And sometimes it's not enough to get you through to what you need to do. You've got to be building those lifestyle habits so that you can sustain them long term. Those habit changes happen gradually, and if you are consistent, they will get you closer to where you want to be. I do believe in having a professionally designed program which will keep you accountable, which is something that is personalized to you, because those cookie cutter workouts, they're not going to necessarily work for you, and then you've wasted time and you feel unmotivated because it's not working. So rather than just doing something totally random, spend the money and get something personalized for you. The change is about progression and consistency, so making sure that you are seeing the changes as you go. Again, you can't expect to stay motivated 100% of the time, but proper individualized programming, accountability, and support can carry you through when your willpower falters. That's what I'm here for. That's why I run my programs, and that's why I run them for 3 months as well. So I really hope that all of that information was helpful for you. And if you do have any questions, please let me know. But yeah, it's a really interesting topic. And once you can get your head around it and have clear vision of what your goal is, what your motivator is, and then put the plan in place, then you have a much more chance of getting there. So I will turn off the recording now. And if anybody online wants to ask any questions, feel free. And if you are playing back, then feel free to send me a message. Thanks for watching. Hope it was helpful and insightful.